Today on Open Minds UFO Report, Navy Arctic UFO photos have been allegedly leaked by an anonymous source. A Russian billionaire is bankrolling a new project to listen for extraterrestrials, and Texas UFO witnesses claim to have had an encounter with the Men in Black. Your Open Minds UFO Report starts now. Hello and welcome to the Open Minds UFO Report. My name is Alejandro Rojas. Several impressive photos of alleged UFOs over the Arctic captured on camera by the Navy in 1971 have been leaked to UFO researchers, and their discovery has been getting worldwide media attention. UFO researcher Alex Mistretta claims that the images were originally given to him by an anonymous source in Europe. Later, he discovered that they were also published in a French paranormal magazine called Top Secret. To further investigate, Mistretta enlisted the help of John Greenewald, who runs the website theblackvault.com. He asked Greenewald to post the pictures in hopes that Greenewald and others may be able to find out more about the images. After posting the story, it began getting international headlines. A Reddit user that goes by the name SpizCat also was able to find higher resolution copies of the images. The images are fantastic. They seem to be of large objects aloft over the ocean, some, if not all, taken from the periscope of a submarine. The big question is, are they real, and if so, what are they? Mistretta says his anonymous source told him the pictures were from a Navy submarine called the USS Trepang in March of 1971. He said that there was an Admiral Dean Reynolds Sackett on board and an officer, John Kilka. He says Kilka spotted the UFOs while they were near the Arctic, between Iceland and the Norwegian island of Jan Mayen. Greenewald looked into these claims, and he says that he found that Admiral Sackett was on board the USS Trepang at the time listed. He also found that Officer Kilka was also on board. Further, he found that the USS Trepang was in the areas that the source claimed at the time the pictures were allegedly taken. Mistretta enlisted the help of Steve Murillo, a former Navy pilot who currently runs the UFO and Paranormal Research Society in Los Angeles. Together, they were able to find and communicate with Sackett and Kilka. The two men confirmed that they were on the USS Trepang in March of 1971. However, they say they nor anyone else saw anything strange while in the Arctic. Mistretta wrote, "Kilka found the investigation interesting reading and doesn't know what the pictures represent. I believe them. I feel confident in saying that Trepang was not involved in the taking of the photographs." Although Mistretta now believes his source's information to be inaccurate, Greenewald found clues that indicate the images may still be real, albeit not extraterrestrial. He searched the Library of Congress and found images of test balloons that look very similar to what is in some of the images. The images he found were from the early 1900s, so the question remains as to whether similar balloons were still being used in the 70s, or are the images colorized versions of much older pictures. Given the misinformation that accompanied the images in the first place, it is also possible they are photoshopped hoaxes. We caught up with Greenewald to ask him about his findings and to get the status of his investigation. So the investigation on the photos was actually going pretty good at first. You had been able to confirm that those two gentlemen were on board the sub, and the sub was in the place that this anonymous witness had said it was at.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, what's interesting about this story is not only the photos, but the fact that when you look at it originally, the facts really kind of lined up. So it seemed like the story in itself was legitimate, whether or not they were UFOs or alien related or anything like that. I think that was kind of the second thing we had to tackle. Alex did a great job bringing this to the forefront, finding the material and kind of pushing to get those original facts out. And when I saw the photos, I thought, okay, this really deserves a closer look. They were just too cool to pass up. Didn't matter if it was a historical thing with the U.S. military or possibly UFO related. But yeah, we started to kind of just push for answers and found that those original facts that came along with the story panned out. And then you had to tackle that second question, okay, is this UFO related or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. The photos are so fantastic, and it's great you guys did so much work. And it's equally as impressive that they were actually able to find Kilka and Sackett. That's really cool. And unfortunately, they said, they didn't see these objects, what had happened. Nothing strange had happened. And Alex has talked about how he believes those guys. Do you believe them as well?
Well, that was a weird turn for me, because deep down, if I separate myself from any personal attachment to this, and I look at the photos and I look at the facts, it really seems like this is a naval exercise of weapon systems. I mean, that really is what this looks like. And if I were a betting man, which I am, I'd put money that's the story. But when Alex tracked down the original guys, that are named in this story that were able to verify were actually there, when he tracked them down and asked them, what is this? And they essentially just denied knowing what it was, thought they were interesting, but denied knowing what it was. That to me was an interesting turn, because I really expected them to say, oh, well, sorry, guys, this was weapons tests. We were testing our new weapon systems, XYZ, and these were naval targets, because the photos really do indicate that that's what these are. But instead, he got the, we don't know what this is. And that to me is really bizarre, because these were decorated naval officers with high ranks. I mean, these weren't just, guys that were just another guy on the ship. I mean, they had ranks behind their name. So I would think that they would see these and just identify them like that, as those are naval targets, and that didn't happen. Now, I'm not saying that that's not what they are. I was just a little surprised that that's how it panned out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we speculate, some possibilities are that it's something they can't talk about, or it could be that something else you discovered. So you did some research and you found some pictures from the early 1900s of similar looking objects that are balloons. And it could be, and I wonder what your thoughts are on this, it kind of looks, some of the pictures are black and white, some of them are colored. The color does seem kind of like when you watch colorized movies or see colorized pictures. Is there any way to prove whether or not perhaps those were colorized and they actually are older pictures?
You'd have to ask a photography expert on that. I'm not sure. The photographs that I found came from the Library of Congress and were kind of tagged chronologically as about 1910 to 1915. So we're talking decades earlier. It's not like this was technology found around the same time frame. Now, that's not to say that they weren't using similar technology, but it is interesting to note that the photographs that really do look similar were from around the 1915 era, and ironically were from a British ship rather than American. So I'm not sure if this is a clue that maybe the Trepang had nothing to do with this, and that this was something else. That's also a possibility, but I keep getting stuck on the original photographs, the ones that are connected to this case, that are tagged with the Trepang's number. So for all intents and purposes, this looks like it's connected to the Trepang somehow, but those that were on board deny knowing anything of what it was. Then when you put the photos next to these Library of Congress images, and even one from the National Geographic Society, they do look very, very similar, and that's what kind of leads me to believe that these are targets of some kind. But there's still a lot of unanswered questions that we have to figure out. Regardless of what it is, though, it's amazing history. It's very cool.
It is amazing history, and one of the things that makes it, I think, doubly amazing is that, you searched, I've searched, there's not many of these photos of these balloons out there. And now we have a new group of these photos. So these photos seem, and they're so great, I mean, the resolution and everything, historically they seem important.
Absolutely. I'm a big military history buff. I mean, it's even though the UFOs and the UFO documentation is kind of what I'm known for and the Black Vault is known for, I mean, I love history no matter what. So I geek out over these photos no matter what they are. Again, I think they're naval targets. But I found that strange also when you try and look for photographs around this era of naval targets, of what they were testing their weapons with, you just can't find much. And that's what makes our jobs as investigators kind of difficult when you're dealing with this type of technology that may still hold a classification after all these decades. There's just not a whole lot to compare it to. And I think that's where our struggle comes in, to try and definitively put an answer on exactly what these are. But regardless, it's great history, and we'll keep pushing. We may end up with a dead end and kind of an unknown to 100% say what these were. But it's a fun journey to try and find out.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is, and we talk about this often because we often talk when something you post goes kind of viral and it starts getting picked up by the mainstream media. But they left out so much with this story, which is kind of frustrating. You all, Alex, you, Steve Merola, did such a great investigation to figure all of this out. But that's completely left out of any of the mainstream stories that I've seen. That's a bit frustrating.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is frustrating. All the credit for this has to go to Alex, for bringing this forward. What I wanted to do was just kind of, help him get this out into the limelight, so to speak. And I had no idea that the media would really kind of glom onto this. But what was kind of I don't know if it was frustrating, fascinating, made me angry. I'm not really sure what the emotion was. But when you see the media look at a story like this, and they take the facts, the true facts that we were able to come out with. Of course, we had question marks still, but we were able to come out with a lot of facts. Alex, Steve, myself, we were able to contribute this to the story. And like you said, it's all left out. And the headline, the actual headline of the articles, is something that was spawned from a comment that I think was a joke about alien fracking, and that they're looking for oil and this, that, and the other thing in the oceans. That all of a sudden becomes the story. Now, I hate to be a pessimist, but no wonder the world thinks we're crazy when we try and get real attention to the UFO topic. And this is a prime example. There was good work that was done to try and figure out what exactly these photographs were. And the media takes one single comment out of literally thousands out of all the social media platforms that really kind of shared this and liked it and forwarded it around. There were thousands of comments, and one on alien fracking all of a sudden becomes the focus. And in major media outlet fashion, that one story, without talking to Alex, without talking to Steve, without talking to myself, without talking to anybody, they start just copying each other.
Yeah, it's really too bad, but hopefully, I think it's important that you all do the great work that you do, and then that gets highlighted. And hopefully over time, when there's more and more people doing careful investigation like you all did to come to a most likely conclusion, that'll start getting highlighted, and that some of this silliness will be curbed a little bit. But I don't think we'll ever can expect the media to completely be unsilly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but like you said, we can just keep doing our job, pushing forward, looking for answers, and hopefully I think a lot of people read those stories. Those that care take that next step, and they'll go to Alex's site or my site or wherever and learn a little bit more, because when it's summarized like that, the facts are lost, the truth is lost, and really the luster is lost behind it. And I think that that's what we have to get beyond. We're not looking for that next viral story anymore. This should be more of a collective investigation of people working together, whether they're curious to just look at it or curious to help out. That's what we need to get to, not necessarily a major media outlet looking for their next alien fracking story.
Well, great. Thanks so much for posting this and the great work that you all did. And thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Scientists working on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, aka the SETI project, got an unprecedented boost in funding that will greatly increase their ability to listen for aliens. The announcement was made on Monday at the Royal Society in London. Russian billionaire Yuri Milner shared the stage with Stephen Hawking to make the announcement. Milner has pledged to donate $100 million over the next 10 years. The funding will help gain access to two of the largest and most powerful telescopes in the world, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia and the Parkes Telescope in Australia. It will also allow SETI to scan a larger amount of the radio spectrum. Currently, SETI gets around 36 hours a year per telescope, and they can scan about 20 to 50 megahertz of the radio spectrum. This new project will allow SETI to access thousands of hours with the telescopes and allow them to scan the entire 10 gigahertz radio spectrum.
We will be committed to full transparency. Both data and software will be open. We will also establish an open platform for external developers to create new applications for analyzing the data.
Andrew Semyon, a director at the University of Berkeley SETI Research Center, will be the lead investigator on the project, which has been named the Breakthrough Initiative. He told Forbes, "Until now, we've hunted and pecked. If you take into account hours and signal types, this will be 50 to 100 times more powerful than everything we've done in the past." Stephen Hawking says the effort is critically important. He told the audience at the Royal Society, "We believe that life arose spontaneously on Earth, so in an infinite universe there must be other occurrences of life. It's time to commit to finding the answer to search for life beyond Earth." The Breakthrough Initiative actually has two components. The first is called Breakthrough Listen and entails the SETI funding. The second is called Breakthrough Message and entails a $1 million prize for the creation of messages to send to space. However, the message will not actually be sent, presumably because Hawking is afraid of what will happen if aliens find out we are here. He said, "If you look at history, conflicts between unmanned and less intelligent organisms have often been disastrous from their point of view. Encounters between civilizations with less advanced technology have gone badly for the less advanced. A civilization reading one of our messages could be billions of years ahead. If so, they will be vastly more powerful and may not see us as any more valuable than we see bacteria." However, another famous astrophysicist on the project, whose face happens to be painted on the walls of the Royal Society, disagrees. Martin Rees, who was also the president of the Royal Society from 2005 to 2010, says, "I suspect if aliens know we exist, they know we're here already. I don't think we should imagine any intelligence is like ours at all." Although the messages from the contest will not be broadcast, Milner says the intention is to inspire conversation about the philosophical and ethical issues involved with potential communications with extraterrestrial civilizations. A witness in Texas claims he and his mother had an encounter with the Men in Black in 1954, according to a report recently submitted to the Mutual UFO Network. The event took place on May 10, 1954, on a flight from San Francisco to Amarillo, Texas. The witness says they made a stop in Albuquerque, New Mexico, then proceeded on to Amarillo, Texas. That is when they spotted a UFO. The witness wrote, "I was sitting in the aisle seat when my mother said, 'Look out the window.' It was a long silver cigar-shaped object flying just off the tip of our plane's wing. It had no sound, no wings, and no engines." The witness continued, "The object passed our plane at a steady speed, almost like they were sightseeing, and then the craft was out of sight." As if the UFO sighting was not exciting enough, the events they claim took place when they landed added to the mystery. "When we landed in Amarillo, two men came aboard the plane and said if anyone had seen anything unusual to stay in their seats as they would like to talk to us. Also, if anyone has any cameras to let them know. The men were dressed in very nice black suits and had very shiny shoes on. My mom nudged me and said, 'Don't say you saw anything or we will be here all day.' The two of us walked off the plane." Reports such as this have been reported for decades. The term Men in Black was coined in the 50s after witnesses claimed they were interviewed by men wearing dark suits and were told not to discuss the UFO events they had witnessed. UFO researcher Nick Redfern published a book on this phenomena last year called The Real Men in Black: Evidence, Famous Cases, and True Stories of These Mysterious Men and Their Connection to the UFO Phenomena. That's your Open Minds UFO report for today. You can find these stories and more at openminds.tv. We post fresh UFO news daily. You can also follow us on Twitter at Open Minds TV, and you can find us on Facebook. Don't forget to register for the International UFO Congress, the Guinness World Record holding largest UFO convention. Early registration is open now, so reserve your spot at the lowest price available all year at ufocongress.com. Let us know if you enjoyed today's episode by liking the episode on YouTube and leaving us your comments in the section below. You can also download our podcast, Open Minds UFO Radio, on iTunes or at openminds.tv/radio. Thanks again for joining us today. For openminds.tv, I'm Alejandro Rojas.